It is fascinating what 20 bucks will get you at the county recorder's office.
Since the release of Season 1 of Stranger Things a full 5 years ago, it didn't take long for the series to become a flagship title of the Netflix streaming platform, introducing the world to incredible talents such as Millie Bobby Brown and Finn Wolfhard. And with a dynamic storyline expressed by a collection of cast in the most emotive way possible, there's really no wonder how the franchise was able to become as popular as it did. But which of our favorite moments from the first 3 seasons were actually unscripted, and how much freedom did the showrunners allow on set? Well, whether you're a fan of the franchise or just want to know as much as possible about what made the show special, you've come to the right place, as we're about to explore some of the best unscripted moments from Stranger Things. So strap yourselves in and get ready for an informative ride, as things are about to get interesting. But before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of our new videos we post. Number 1. The infamous kiss. The first unscripted moment on our list resulted in a bit of a controversy when the cat was finally let out of the bag, with the Duffer brothers taking quite a bit of heat for what they had essentially put Sadie Sink through. We are, of course, referring to that infamous kiss between Lucas Sinclair, as portrayed by the wonderful Caleb McLaughlin, and Max Layfield, played by the always charismatic Sadie Sink, back in Season 2. For those of you who might have forgotten about this moment, it took place in the dance hall of Hawkins High School and was the epitome of the various will they won't they hints that had been thrown around ever since. Max was first introduced at the beginning of the season. While slow dancing together, Max finds that she cannot contain herself any longer and leans in all the way to give Lucas a short but sweet peck on the lips. The surprised look on Lucas's face said it all, along with the little smile that he showed shortly after experiencing this adorable little moment. And even though this felt like the natural way to develop these two characters, the decision to introduce the kiss was never actually written into the script. In fact, it's something that the Duffer brothers chose to add as a joke to make Sadie uncomfortable. Keep in mind that Sadie was only 15 years old at the time and was clearly trying to deal with both the anxiety of growing up and her own ability to perform for the first time on set. So when she got to work that day, and Ross Duffer joked that she would be kissing Lucas later in the day, she got incredibly embarrassed and freaked out about how she had never actually been kissed before. And it was this reaction of hers that made Ross add the kiss in as a joke, wondering how she would react to it all when she was actually on set. When asked about the moment in an interview with Sadie, Ross spoke directly to her and said, "You were so freaked out that I was like, well, you've got to make her do it now." Suffice to say, fans of the show were not happy with this explanation at all, hitting Ross Duffer up on Twitter with quite a few mean remarks. Having your first kiss in front of over 100 crew members and then broadcast all over the world is not exactly something that anyone in the world would want after all, but Sadie stood up for Ross, mentioning that she now has an incredible first kiss story that is not connected to any failed relationships and will be remembered fondly forever. She also added that if she was really uncomfortable at the moment, Ross would have never made her do it. She was just nervous about how it was all going down, and we have to admit that we are really glad that the kiss ended up happening. It was a sweet moment to this day that still makes us feel all warm and fuzzy inside. The perfect ending to an incredible season. Number 2, that hilarious grocery store scene. It's no secret that the cast of Stranger Things have an incredible friendship both on and off the screen. In fact, it's the relationship and chemistry between Millie Bobby Brown, who plays 11, and Finn Wolfhard, best known for his portrayal of Mike Wheeler, that makes our next unscripted moment an unforgettable one. Towards the end of Season 3 of the franchise, we see Mike and 11 chatting away in a grocery store after having faced off against a monstrous creature for the billionth time in the series. Happy to be alive, the two come to terms with what has been going on between them in the past year. Remember, Season 3 started with the two characters being all over each other to the disgust of father figure Jim Hopper, but when Mike decided to become a bit too controlling, things went a little pear-shaped. This led to a breakup that split the group in two, which was then considered to be one of the emotional side plots of the season. First Love Turned Sour is always fun to watch, and it looks like the Duffer brothers agreed with this sentiment. But after surviving the season and looking forward to what was to come, the two finally decided to bury the hatchet with one another, leading to this incredible scene where Mike goes on to explain what he's feeling. Although we suppose it would be better to say that he tried his very best to describe his emotions, as he didn't do very well and only ended up confusing 11 even further. It was hilarious, yet a sweet moment that served as the basis for the two characters coming to terms with who they are to one another. And it might surprise you to hear that this moment was 100% Unscripted. According to the script, Finn was supposed to tell Eleven that he loves her, but Finn went on to nervously talk about the feeling old people get when they're around each other for a long time. Absolute gold, and definitely more in line with what someone his age would have said while portraying the role of a nervous wreck. So when the Duffer Brothers saw what Finn was trying to do, they just kept the cameras rolling and agreed that this was a definite improvement of the script in front of them. Number 3. Staying in character. World-class actors have an ability to stay in character under the worst of circumstances. Probably the best example of this is the scene from Django Unchained where Leonardo DiCaprio slams his fist down on a glass, causing blood to spurt from the open wound. Although he must have been in some serious pain, DiCaprio kept at it and spoke his lines with raw emotion that ended up making the cut. And as it turned out, one of the newest names on the Stranger Things scene had a moment very similar to this one, allowing his performance to evolve from great to absolutely fantastic. We are, of course, talking about that insane headbutt from Dacre Montgomery back in Season 3, who fans might know better as Billy Hargrove. At this point in the franchise, Billy was possessed by the Mind Flayer, who was using his pain to control him from the upside down. And when our ragtag group of heroes comes to realize this, they lock him in the sauna and crank up the heat to try and drive the Mind Flayer out. This causes Billy to go absolutely mental, becoming the only man in the history of the world to be intimidating while rocking a mullet. According to the script, Dacre was supposed to just do some crazy hand motions while reciting the lines that had been written for him, but he decided to take things a step further by adding some progression to the character. Rather than shouting at his sister, he crouched down and had a heartfelt moment with her, expressing true sadness about what he had become. But when this doesn't work, he takes the first train to Crazy Town by screaming his head off, and in a moment of absolute insanity, Dacre almost cracked his skull by headbutting the window he was supposed to shout at the kids from behind. We're guessing he just got caught up in his character, which means that the shocked reactions from the rest of the cast members were 100% authentic. Luckily for Dacre, he just walked away without much more than a headache, with this scene making it into the season to show just how aggressive the Flayed became once possessed by the Mind Flayer. Number 4. The collapse. Speaking of that sauna scene, the Duffer Brothers have actually gone on record by saying that it was one of their favorites. You might not believe it, but the cast involved in this scene actually worked on it for around 4 days before the showrunners decided that enough was enough. Everyone was pretty tired by the time that insane Billy was finally knocked out by Eleven, which is what leads us to our next unscripted moment from that very same scene. Remember how Eleven collapsed after using her power to choke out Billy and save her friends? Well, as it turns out, this was completely unscripted. After tensing her body up to give the impression that she was using her telekinetic powers, Millie's legs gave way, causing her to come crashing to the ground. This led to other cast members rushing up to her, which was added to the final cut after doctoring it slightly to look as if she had passed out just after defeating Billy. Director Sean Levy spoke up about this moment in an interview, stating that all the exhaustion you see in Millie's face during that scene was real because of the rigorous schedule that she had on her plate. So when she collapsed into Mike's arms and started sobbing, this was nothing more and nothing less than raw, unfiltered emotion. Look closer at the scene once more and you'll see that when Millie collapses, Finn breaks character for a split second, looking over at the director for direction. But luckily, Sean was able to wave him back into the scene, making it by far one of the favorites of fans. And considering how much effort the cast put into it, it's no wonder why. Number 5. That face touch. Last but not least, we have another short moment from Millie and Dacre, which comes in the form of the scene where Eleven is empathizing with the possessed bully after seeing his memories of his mother. According to the script, Eleven was supposed to forgive him for what he had done, causing him to break the connection with the Mind Flayer. But rather than staying immobile, Millie instead chose to place her hand on Dacre's cheek, which was the perfect end to this possessed state. But hey, what do you think of these unscripted scenes from Stranger Things? Be sure to let us know in the comment section down below.